vibe.
Yo, what's up, everybody? It's About Live Podcast. Your boy Shane, a.k.a. Black Duplicate. You already know what it is. Spirit. Right? So, as y'all know, well, not all y'all, but some of y'all know what the discussions that's been going on lately between the Native Americans that we know of and the possible actual Native Americans before them or of that time, or, you know, all the stuff going on with the mongrels possibly coming over here and becoming Native Americans, or was it the mongrels coming over here assisting with the Europeans slaughtering the native black-eyed moon people, which aka Moors, enslaving them and then converting all that stuff and then fighting amongst each other over the land after that fact, right? So there's a lot of crazy talk going on all over media. It's pretty bizarre, you know, the rise of the Moors, basically, right? And then there's another discussion within the Moors whether the Moors are African or not, right? That's where my concern comes in. You know, the other stuff is whatever to me. Of course, it's all concerning because, you know, lies and manipulation, of course, but that concerns me the most for the simple fact that my own beliefs, not from history books, not from on that, my own beliefs is I think all life stemmed from that Pacific area. Reason being, if you look at the area, all the minerals of the earth come from that area. Damn near almost all the animals come from that area. Everything stems from that Pacific area, so I figured we're a part of the earth the same way the minerals and the animals are, so I would naturally assume we also stem from that area as well and then migrated all over the globe, right? Of course, I'm not a historian. I could be wrong for sure. That's the reason why I discuss multiple topics on this podcast. I don't just do one thing. I'm not just going to keep it narrow-minded and only stay one way. I like to see the ways of many people, which is why I bring this on here, to give y'all multiple thoughts and multiple things to discuss and just bring in some thoughts to yourself. But the number one subject behind all this, which is really, really not good, is just the fact of division. Now, I understand we've already been divided, so we can't use that excuse. Oh, the rise of the truth is dividing people. No, the rise of the truth is going to prevail and make people greater. That's one thing I 100% back 100%. What I'm talking about is the division amongst people of color, right? Now, that is very dangerous. We've already been divided as much as possible. So we have to find a way to unite all over the place, right? Unity of the earth is the number one thing that we need to understand. Not unity of the races, unity of the entire earth needs to take place. If it doesn't, we will fall. That's just facts. But either way, with the Moors talking about, you know, coming over to this country and actually being the aboriginals of this country, or not, let's not say coming over here, let's say they're the ones that were actually here in the very, very beginning, which is the dark-eyed moon people, the Moors. So there's a lot of good backed information, and we're going to be going over some of that today. So I got this man right here who has some very good things to talk about. It's about an 8-minute video, so we're gonna go over that every now and then. I'll stop, give my outlook on it, and then y'all can give yours in the comments and all that good stuff. I was gonna do this live, but I can't. I have a couple other things going on that I just won't work that way. So let's begin. He got really remarkable information, and I would highly suggest that the 2 books he mentions, maybe looking into them. I would suggest reading them if you have the time. If you don't, probably should make the time to read them. They're very, very intriguing books. So let's get into it.
A scholar called Ivan Van Sertima wrote 2 books. One called They Came Before Columbus, and one called...
See, I'll pause it real quick so you can get that down. They Came Before Columbus, so you could grab this book up right here.
Early America.
And then Early America Revisited, right? Those 2 books right there are very, very intriguing books. Let's continue.
And both of these books, particularly the first one, received a lot of criticism and a lot of praise. It was a very polarizing work, because he's suggesting that Africans sailed to America before Christopher Columbus. Now, I've read a lot of the critiques of his work, and I'll be honest with you, most of the critiques I've read to this point, and I'd be happy to see a better one, have either just lied about what he said. They've said that he said all the Olmecs were Africans. He never said that. They've said that he said Africans civilized Native Americans. Who would say such a racist, idiotic thing other than a racist idiot? He never said that. He never said that Africans founded Olmec civilization. These are all things that people said he said, and even putting quotation marks in their articles. Because they knew people were not going to read Van Sertima's work once you labelled him a crazy Afrocentric black person, even though he's half Native American.
That's how they do it.
Didn't matter, job done, people are not going to read his work. Then some other critiques that I've read around his work just deal with partial pieces of the evidence in isolation and say, see, therefore he's wrong. But if you view one piece of evidence in a case in isolation, you're not building a whole case. So I'm happy to see a better, more rounded critique, but until then, I'm going to present to you some of the evidence he presents.
Which I can totally agree on that, though. I could totally agree on that. The fact you have to look at the whole picture, man. You can't just look at one thing and think that that's the answer to everything. No, you have to look at the whole entire situation. You know, it's like cooking a dish and you take a bite of this food and all you taste, let's say it has a whole bunch of different seasonings. You eat a piece of steak and it got a whole bunch of seasonings. You eat the steak and all you do is say, hey, it's steak. There's nothing on it. It's just pure steak. No, there's a whole bunch of damn seasonings on there that's making your taste buds go crazy. Kind of stupid analogy, but you get the damn point. I understand exactly where he's coming from. That doesn't even work in the damn court of law. That's why they have to build the case with multiple pieces of evidence. You can't lock somebody up with one piece of evidence that doesn't even coincide with the crime.
His book, you can decide for yourself, based on the evidence in his books, if you think the position that he's put forward is rational and sensible, not based on our bias and the ridiculous idea that Africans couldn't have sailed across the ocean, but based on actual evidence.
Yeah, well, they actually
so some
did.
of the evidence he put together, shocking as it may seem, were 13 different European witnesses, including Columbus and Columbus's son. The names are all up there. You can go and check the book, check his references, who talked about seeing Africans when they got to America. Columbus particularly doesn't talk about actually seeing them himself. He talks about the indigenous people of Haiti giving him some spears that they said they traded with black people that came from the southeast. He takes them back to Spain. They're examined by the Spanish metallurgist, who concludes they were the same as the spears they were trading with Guinea. One of these scholars here, the Frenchman, Captain Calhert, explicitly refers to the Africans he saw in Panama as Mandingos, which were the people of medieval Mali. So 13 different Europeans. African oral tradition in the Malian kingdom says that King Abubakari II left, he abdicated the throne with 200 ships to sail to the great continent to the west.
Which is incredible because in my genealogy report, I have Mali descent. You know what I'm saying? That's pretty incredible. Like, I do have that. And I also have some type of indigenous Eastern American type shit, some crazy shit. So it's pretty interesting, man. But let's continue on. But that Christopher Columbus joint was pretty fire. The fact that they were trading spears with one another.
There are two contemporary Arabic documents from Egypt that tell the same story of King Abubakari II abdicating the throne and sailing to the great continent to the west.
Yes, that one is huge.
But here's where it gets really sticky. The Smithsonian Institute found two skeletons that they concluded, based on anthropological examination, to be African tropically adapted skeletons at Hull Bay in St. Thomas, dated from 1250 AD. Okay.
Oh, that's huge.
It's a bit problematic.
Very problematic.
Then, on an island just close to that, they found an ancient African writing system, which I'm about to show you, called the Tifinagh script, which originates in Libya, but was also used by medieval Malians. Modern voyages on ancient crafts, so 3 different European scholars rebuilt, first of all, ancient Egyptian ships, then medieval African ships, and then one guy even sailed, the last guy in that list, Alan Lombard, sailed across the Atlantic in a raft with no supplies, just a fishing rod, and he caught rainwater. So the Atlantic is not particularly hard to cross. We know that Columbus was sailing down the coast of Africa trying to get to India, and he got caught in these currents. To assume that it's impossible for an African fisherman to have made the same mistake, let alone a royal fleet of 200 ships, seems a bit strange to me. I don't know why we would assume that. And then things got even more controversial. In 1992, the female scientists who developed the test to test hair for drugs, so that test that people still use, if you're a football player, or if you're an athlete, or if you're a prison person, they want to see if a prisoner and they want to see if you've been taking drugs, they examine the proteins in your hair and they can see what kind of drugs you've been taking. The woman who developed that test in 1992 found cocaine in the stomach of Ramesses II. And she was so shocked by what she found, because she knows that cocaine comes from America, she tested and retested and retested because she knew she was going to get loads of stick. Then she tested Sudanese mummies and found the same thing, and read what she said. She got hate mail, people cussing her, people were just like, what are you talking about, you're an idiot.
Oh, that's a bombshell. That is a bombshell right there. Holy shit.
A woman whose
Let's
scientific
continue.
prowess is there, is there to be attested to, but what she discovered was so upsetting for some people that she was hated on by people who, of course, are nowhere near as scientifically qualified as she is. Botany and oceanography and ceremonial and cultural correspondences between some of the stuff we're seeing in Africa and in the Americas. For example, Bart Jordan, a famous mathematical genius, child genius, who was so bright that he was given a public audience with Albert Einstein when he was just a child. This is how mathematically genius the gentleman was. He'd done a study of African pyramids, of ancient Egyptian pyramids, and Mesoamerican pyramids. According to him, not according to me, I'm not on that level mathematically. According to his study, is that they have to have been related, because the complex mathematical relationships to particular planets like Venus that these pyramids are built around, there's just no way. It was like, it's impossible that you would get that correlation without some sort of relationship. Again, if you have an issue with it, take it up with him. I don't have the answer.
You heard that shit. yeah. This stuff can't be denied, bro. That's for one thing. Some of this information just can't be denied. You know what I mean? Some of this information can, and it does verify what my thoughts are, which is most of the life stems from that Pacific continent, because I believe they came from a specific royal family of the African continent. The kings and queens over there sent their royal fleet over here to find new land, and they found it and they settled here. And then after the fall of that continent, which I believe was this is just my own theory, I believe when Hannibal the Annihilator lost, that's when they took over the continent, and a lot of things changed. And then the European Roman sector basically followed some of the information that they retained from that huge library in Egypt, which probably stated the new land to the west, right? And then they followed that construct, went over there, found those people, and now you have what we have today. But who knows? That's just my theory.
Slide. So here we have in Mexico in 800 BC cane rows. No big deal till we turn the face round. How do we explain a face like that turning up in Mexico in 800 BC? Now, I would put it to you that if this was an overtly Chinese face, or a face that looked like a Viking, we wouldn't even have to have a debate. Everyone would be like, well, it must mean based on one face. The Vikings must have gone to America. How could you have an obviously Viking face in America unless there was Vikings there? Yet we can have a face like this, and people could honestly look at this and say, it's impossible that people of African heritage could have gone to America.
Which is insane.
Okay.
Doesn't make sense. The most
like
advanced civilization on the man was over there.
Very clear. Not all of the Olmec heads were Africans. So pointing out that some of them don't look like Africans is irrelevant, because it was very clear that many of them are obviously not African and Native American. Next slide, please. This is the Tifinagh script that I was talking about from Hull Bay in St. Thomas. Sorry, the Tifinagh script is not in Hull Bay. It's on, does say there, Bottom Reef Bay in St. John's in the US Virgin Islands. So same collection of islands. And if you read what it says, it actually talks about ablutions. So not only is it an ancient Libyan script that we know medieval Malians used, but it makes an explicit Islamic reference. And we know that kingdom was Islamic at the time. Again, I'm not saying you have to accept all of this evidence. I'm saying all I want as a counter-argument is evidence. I don't want prejudice and bias, which is what I've seen from a lot of the scholars that have counteracted
of course.
this. These carvings are from Panama and Mexico, from the 1300s. The member of the German royal family, called Professor von Hottenau, who helped Van Sertima write the book, has over 100 of these carvings. They were tested by a process called thermoluminescence, which I don't scientifically understand, but apparently it's a way you date museum artifacts. Before the German museum would buy them, of course they wanted to know they were not forgeries, because some people even said, he forged them all these carvings. And then they were tested before the German museum would buy them, and they were originally owned by a member of the German royal family. How do we explain carvings like this turning up in Mexico in the 1300s? And again, and again, and again. This is my favorite one. That is a handsome face, that one, isn't it? Let's be honest.
Yeah.
If there's a more logical explanation than that people that look like this were present in Mexico, I'd love to hear it. And this is the reconstruction of an ancient Egyptian papyrus ship done by Thor Heiderhauer, a Norwegian, in 1969. He went to Chad He didn't go to Egypt, he went to Chad. And the Budumu boatmen in Lake Chad rebuilt him an ancient Egyptian papyrus ship, and he sailed from Egypt to Barbados. So we know it's physically possible. So again, we've got to digest the evidence and decide what we think based on the evidence. Until then, I'm going to agree with the American head of the Smithsonian Institute that was part of the archaeological team. In fact, he was the head of the archaeological team that digged up the Olmec heads. He said the following, and I will read it word for word. He said, Van Sertima's work is a summary of 6 or 7 years of meticulous research based upon archaeology, Egyptology, African history, oceanography, geology, astronomy, botany, rare Arabic and Chinese manuscripts, letters and journals of early American explorers, and observations of physical anthropologists. As one who has been immersed in Mexican archaeology for some 40 years and participated in the excavation of the first giant heads, I must confess I am firmly convinced of the soundness of Van Sertima's conclusions. But people would sell it to you that the only people who believe in Van Sertima are crazy Afrocentric black people trying to make themselves feel better for racism.
Now that's huge. That is huge. There's the little TikTok if you want to go look up that little thing on TikTok if you want. Of course, you can find it on YouTube as well. I'll see if I can get the links in the bio so you can go look at it yourself. And there's a lot more stuff it goes on more. Like, he's not done. I'm not gonna do a damn 30-minute video. I just want to give y'all a night. I love that part of it, which is incredible. But yeah, man. There's a lot more evidence. That's nothing compared to the evidence that is out there that Africans or people of that continent, whatever you want to call them, because Africa is not the actual name of that continent. It's what is it? Alkebulan, I think it is. Alkebulan, I believe, is the actual name of that continent. Correct me if I'm wrong, people from Africa. If you know that, let me know. Or somebody that knows the actual real dialect of it, let me know. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Alkebulan is the original name of that continent. It was called Africa after Hannibal fell. He fell to a Roman general with the last name Africanus. I believe that's what it is. And he named that continent African and took over all the people in the continent. It's never been the same because they forced them to sign such rigorous and horrible contracts. They had no choice. They didn't. It was either that or get your people annihilated and slaughtered. You know what I'm saying? So they made a decision, and a lot of bad decisions had to be made. They had to choose a lesser evil. And that's why a lot of things happen. And we got it's a huge thing. It's a huge thing. But the evidence that people of that culture were here before everybody in America. You really can't deny the fact that it was there. No one's trying to make themselves feel like the number one people and all that. No, it's just the facts, man. It's just the facts. All over the world, there are facts of this that has happened, right? There are facts. Now, the Alkebulan people, the people of that continent, were incredible people. Straight facts. Like, you could look at all the agriculture. You could look at all the structures. You could look at everything. Everything that's happened with that culture is fascinating and still survives to this day, even though they are still under genocide, still under slavery, and still under control of other nations, and still being robbed of all their minerals. They still exist, and they still are holding it strong, and they still are all over the world. You can't deny those facts, bro. And the hotter the sun gets, the more people like me thrive, right? So, but yeah, I just want to end it there. I just want to bring y'all some awesome information like that. I thought that was incredible. I loved all that information, and I love stuff like that. Me and my brother have been studying stuff like that since the beginning of like time. Like, we've always studied that stuff since we came into existence. Me and him were born loving that type of culture and history, and it shows why, because that's where we stem from, right? But yeah, I just want to give you that good information. Make sure you like, share, subscribe to the content. Please like, share, subscribe to the content. I love y'all. It's about life. We out of here. We out about life.